What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, approximately 1 year ago, I went in and did something pretty crazy. Took a road trip up to Erie, Pennsylvania and purchased a 2024 Honda Civic Type-R FL5. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing a thorough 1 year ownership review. All right, long story short, 2024 Honda Civic Type-R FL5 in Boost Blue Pearl. This was my early 45th birthday present / midlife crisis present to myself. And I picked this up in Erie, Pennsylvania at MSRP. So today's episode, we're gonna actually dive into some of the upgrades I've done on this car, some of the things I like, some of the things I don't like, and if you can drive this car as a daily driver, for those of you wanting to know that information. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and talk about some of the driving characteristics as well. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the upgrades I've done on this car so far. Okay, let's go ahead and place some emphasis on the front end of this car in regards to the customizations. All right, so if you take a look at the passenger side lower grille, I've got my license plate attached to that lower grille right there. Basically, there's a metal frame that's securing the license plate to it. And I went ahead and did some zip ties and just attached it to the grille. If you guys have been following this channel, I actually did try the Sly license plate bracket, which is like a no drill mount system. So it basically has like little clamps that clamp inside the grille. And then what it does, it actually pushes it away. So there's a lot of flex to that thing, and it looked real silly because I mean it protruded out from the grill like inch and a half. It was ridiculous looking. So I think this is the best looking option. So if you're looking to mount your front license plate, just go ahead, get a metal frame like I've got that mounts the license plate to that metal frame, and just zip tie it carefully to the front grill and place it wherever you want. But I've got this away from the intercool as much as I can. All right, one of the biggest upgrades I've done in this car, and you might not be able to see this on camera, but this has got paint protection film all over the front end of this car right here. So the installer went ahead and did PPF on the whole bumper right here. All this black plastic trim, the headlights, the hood's been done. This hood scoop has been done. Both fenders have been done. The A-pillar is going up the roof and partially up the roof from this point on forward. In addition, the side view mirrors as well. So what the point of the PPF is, basically protects the paint from like miscellaneous scratches, and number one is rock chips on the highway right here. So this car has got approximately 6,000 miles on it. Been on some road trips on the highways and whatnot. The stuff seems to be working pretty well because I can't really see any rock chips on the front of this car. But the only drawback on PPF is expensive. Okay, before I go and talk about the cost of the PPF, the same shop did a paint correction system on the entire body of this car. In addition to that, and there's also some SunTech 20% ceramic tint as well, in order to give me some privacy and protect those red seats from having the UV rays fade those things into pink. Okay, so between the paint protection film, the full paint correction, the ceramic coating, and the 20% window tint, I'm right under $4,000 for paying for this service. It's very expensive, but I mean, just look at it as a protecting your investment type of situation. So, I mean, it was a hard pill to swallow, but you know, I didn't want to have a rock chewed up front end. And obviously I did not want to leave the windows as a fishbowl status, as they call it. So I want to get some privacy and UV protection as well. So it's expensive to do. I mean, it ranges by shop and region that you live in. So, you know, just go ahead and do your shopping, do your research, and just don't choose the cheapest option. All right, the next detail is very small, but it makes a big difference in my opinion. So I went in and put some 25mm and 20mm spacers in order to get those wheels flush with the fenders. Because from the factory, these 19 by 9.5 wheels are a plus 60mm offset, which basically means those things are swallowed way into the fenders way too much, and it just looks silly, especially when you lower the car down. It looks ridiculous in my opinion. So now I know some of you guys are saying, why would you put wheel spacers on a Honda Civic Type-R FL5 for? Well, you know, these are quality spacers. So they're forged, they're wheel centric, they're hub centric, and a lot of people are using that brand, which is Bonus, by the way. So just be careful what brand spacers you use on the car, because it's very important. You don't want to use some cheapos. But this is temporary right now. We got a big surprise coming for this car in the next few months, and I can't wait to show you guys. But, you know, possibly be getting rid of these wheel spacers and OEM wheels. All right, this is probably the biggest modification I've done on the FL5 Type-R. As you can see, this thing is lowered down just a little bit, so it is sitting on spoon lowering springs. So I believe the spoon lowering springs lowers the car less than an inch, 0.8 inches to be exact. So there's just a little bit over 2 fingers gap between the tire and the fender, which I think is perfect. It's very versatile. so you're not worrying about scraping every single place you go. And believe it or not, lowering this car in spoon lowering springs actually improves the ride comfort over the stock springs. So I believe that's due in part to more coils per linear inch. So if you're looking to lower your FL5 Type-R, I highly recommend the spoon lowering springs. But if you don't choose spoon lowering springs, just pay attention to the spring rates, because that's very important on ride quality for the car. So what do you guys think? You think this thing is low enough with the spoon lowering springs, or you think I should have went with Swift, which would actually lowered it about 1 inch exactly? Regardless, I'm very happy with the outcome of the spoon lowering springs on the FL5 Type-R. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd definitely reinstall these things. I went ahead and installed some OEM illuminated door sill protector plates. So the driver's side and passenger side actually has this illuminated Type-R right here. It's hard to see because it's daytime right now. Now I think the plastic right here matches the door sills perfectly. So that's a big plus right there. I did have to do some wiring on this. So actually I had to go ahead and pull this apart, pull the kick panel off, go ahead and pull the lower dashboard panels off, and then go ahead and plug it in on the underside of the dashboard right there. And actually had to pull a wire from that side and then go behind the radio above all the pedals and stuff and plug it right in. So that was the toughest part of this. So I do have a great do-it-yourself video in case you guys are interested in doing that upgrade. OEM illuminated door sill protector plates. Okay, and then for floor mats, these are the Max Spider 3D floor mats. I'm very happy with these things. These things fit like a glove. It's got a nice heavy duty, I guess, rubberized plastic material right here. And you can kind of tell it actually does hold a lot of fluids. I just washed the car, so, you know, I guess my shoes kept some water right there. But, you know, these things are pretty stout. They're pretty tough, so I'm pretty happy with these floor mats. I just wish they came in red. That'd be awesome. Okay, this one's a small one. So this is the HomeLink OEM Honda rear view mirror. So there's a few parts vendors that actually sells this mirror brand new, but you do have to buy a wiring harness. So what this mirror does, it actually has integrated garage door controls, and then this is an auto dimming feature right here. So here's a button for auto dimming feature, and there's 3 buttons for a garage door remote right there. And plus this is a nice, larger frameless mirror right there, so high quality mirror right there. So it's just a simple detail, but highly recommend this upgrade right there. Okay, open up the back doors of the FL5. You got these door sill protector plates, much smaller than the front ones, and they're not illuminated, but it comes with a set. But as you can see right here, the texture of the door sill protector plate matches this door sill right here. So that's a nice feature that Honda implemented. Okay, I don't know if this is a mod, but let me show you what's in the trunk here. Okay, so this car does not come with a spare tire. So the first week upon ownership, I went ahead and tracked down a spare tire. So this spare tire kit is basically from an Acura RL, because the Acura RL has a 5x120 lug pattern as well. So I lucked out at the yard. I actually had to find my way into a trunk of the final Acura RL, and this thing was brand new. I'm not sure if you can see the paint lines on the tires, but this thing has never been on the road. So I went ahead and got the spare tire home, inflated to the proper PSI, and I actually was able to find the jack kit as well inside that same Acura RL. And this is the best way I can secure this right now, with some light duty tie straps. So basically I just use the factory tie downs right here. So you got one hook right here in the back corner, and you got this hook right here towards the back seat. Same situation on the driver's side, and then you got that back corner right there. Now this is not the prettiest sight whatsoever, but it is what it is for the time being. I just wish that Honda was able to actually recess the tire well a little bit lower, because if you were to put a spare tire in there, you could actually put the floor back to where it should be. So I don't know if you can see the height difference right here, but here's the factory floor and here's the spare tire. I mean, so you got about a good 6 inches, 5 inches to go. It just doesn't look right. But, you know, like I said, I'd rather be safer than sorry and have a backup spare tire than actually having a nice looking trunk, I guess. Okay, so the price of this spare tire and the jack kit from the junkyard, I paid $45 for. So that was money well spent right there, no doubt. Because I think if you buy the FK8 spare tire and jack kit, it's around $300 and some change. So definitely highly recommend, if you can find an Acura RL spare tire, go to the local salvage yard, pick one out of a car along with the jack kit. You'll save yourself a substantial amount of money right there. And taking a closer look on the hood here, you got K20C1, 315 horsepower 4-cylinder motor. K-series engine, by the way. That's definitely the way to go. I'm definitely going to keep this thing stock for right now. I'm happy with the power level it's got. It's fast enough for what I'm doing on the street and stuff like that, but And I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that want to crave more power, so just be careful what parts you throw at this motor and do your research before doing so. Okay, so the only thing under the hood that I've added here is the Blitz front strut tower bar. I think it looks pretty nice. Blitz is a great brand over there in Japan. Or this thing straight from Black Hawk, Japan, I believe it was. This thing was on sale. I can't remember what I paid for this thing. I think it was like 120 bucks or 140 bucks. But it's got some adjustable points right here. So there's the main bolt right there. So once you have this bracket into place and torque to spec, then you can go ahead and put the main bar on. And then once everything is in place, go ahead and torque this thing to spec on this side and this side right here. Okay, so the Blitz front strut bar, highly recommend. I'm not sure of the rigidity versus the other brands out there, but I'm pretty happy with it. It looks kind of cool and probably add some more structural rigidity, I guess you want to call it that. Let's go and talk about my likes and dislikes on the FL5. Okay, now before I go ahead and start on the first dislike, you guys are gonna probably call me a boomer or old-fashioned, but this is my first dislike right here. This is the key fob. My Ford Mustang came with these in 2016 on the GT that I had, and I was just never a fan of these things. So these cars with the key fobs, they're much easier to steal than a traditional key with a chip in there. It's just a little FYI, so that's one of the reasons I do not like key fobs, and it's just, I don't like these things. So that's just my personal preference. Now, I had a 2022 Toyota Tacoma that I purchased a few years ago. It came with a 6-speed manual transmission, and come to find out, if you got the 6-speed manual transmission, you got the regular key. Because I was under the impression it came with a key fob also, so when the salesman brought out the regular key, I was pretty happy, so that's a big plus right there. Okay, now the second dislike is over here in the engine bay. I know it's really silly and really small, but let me show you what's going on with what Honda did here. Okay, taking a closer look at the passenger side, right by the strut tower, this is really silly right here. So you got your washer bottle right here, and you got this rubber hose, and look how it just goes up over all the pinch welds and goes back down inside the cowl. I mean, I think this thing looks really silly, and this is like an afterthought right there. I wish Honda would have actually put this hose right through here. It may have affected structural integrity or something like that. And after talking with other Civic Si and Type-R owners, you know, they agree with me that this is just basically a big afterthought right here. So it's something small, but it could have been, you know, implemented a lot better than this. Okay, another dislike in the engine bay is this coolant reservoir right here. So these things are known to actually fail right along the seam, so I'm paying close attention to this right here. And these things, they're offered in the aftermarket, and they're not exactly cheap. They're like $300 to $500, just a little FYI if you want to upgrade to a metal one. So I just wish that this coolant reservoir was made a lot stronger with all the failures I've seen on this. Okay, another complaint within the engine bay is the valve cover. Once you pull off this cover right here, the valve cover itself is actually plastic. So I'm used to the old school K-Series motors where you had a nice aluminum with a crinkle red finish to it. But this is basically just a plastic engine cover, and the valve cover itself is plastic. I just wish that some aftermarket company or Honda would actually make a metal one with the red crinkle finish, you know, going back to the roots. Okay, another dislike is right here on the side skirt right here. So I just washed this car about an hour ago, by the way, and check this out. You already got rocks that are just built up right in there, and those things are very tricky to get in. You gotta get like a rag wrapped in some like little screwdriver to like push them out, but this is a big trap for little rocks right here. And speaking of rock ledges, right here in this fender opening from Honda, this is a big popular upgrade. So you get this fender mesh. It's a very small detail, but you gotta go ahead and pull this liner out, put the fender mesh in there, go ahead and put the new clips in. Now you got a mesh protector right here, because otherwise rocks are basically getting thrown right through here, and just, you know, big chance for basically scratching up the paint surface right here. Okay, so moving on to the rear of the car, the taillights, you know, this lamp right here for turn signal and this lamp right here for backup, they're still incandescent. Should be LED. I mean, the brake lights are LED, so I don't know why Honda didn't match that up, but I know you can solve that with a simple bulb upgrade, but I don't know. I guess it should have came standard from Honda with a Type-R feature. Okay, and last but not least on the body right here. So for those of you who don't know, this whole hatch right here is actually plastic. There's a metal frame underneath it, but right here, that's a plastic material. So I don't know if it's like a weight savings or cost savings, probably a little bit of both, but it is what it is. Okay, enough about complaints. Let's get into my likes of the FL5 Type-R. Okay, there's a lot of things I like about this car, so I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet and not elaborate too much right here. All right, so first and foremost, I love the triple rear exhaust right there in the center. Gives a nice aggressive look along with the rear diffuser. Love that look right there. And then you got the rear spoiler, which is very pronounced for the FL5 Type-R. I initially did not like this thing when I bought this car, but it's grown on me. I think it's the perfect height. I know they sell ring risers for this thing, but we're not going to do that because it looks a little ridiculous. So I think this is the perfect height, perfect design, so it stays how it is. Whether it's in a gloss black, and I know some people like to paint match it, so I'm going to keep this thing gloss black. It looks pretty nice. Okay, one of my favorite features of this car is the rear hatchback. So I've owned my shares of coupes and sedans. I think I had a Buick LeSabre, I've had a Nissan Maxima, and an Acura CL, and they all had that rear deck right there. So it was not hatchback. So the rear deck and that trunk lid have many limitations, especially for cargo and stuff like that. So I don't think I'll ever be buying a sedan or a coupe with a rear deck ever again. I just love station wagons, I love hatchbacks, I like pickup trucks. So those are the three main vehicles I'm gonna stick with, unless it's a Porsche 911. That's an exception right there. So I just love the functionality of a hatchback or a station wagon. You can fold these seats down. So basically you just fold these seats right down, just pull the lever and push it on down, and just look how much storage space you got there. Voila. This is just an incredible car right there for versatility. So thumbs up for Honda for making this thing a hatchback, because if this thing was a regular sedan or a coupe with a rear deck, I probably would not have bought this car. So station wagons and hatchbacks, 2 thumbs up for me. And on the interior of the FL5, one of my favorite features is actually the factory Bose stereo system that Honda implemented on the FL5 Type-R. I've actually installed a lot of aftermarket stereos back in the day on old cars and stuff like that, but for whatever reason, the Bose stereo on the FL5 is actually quite amazing. So you got multiple speakers on the system. So you got speakers right here on the A-pillars. You got a central speaker right here behind the screen. And of course you got your door speakers right here in the door. And we got a factory 8-inch subwoofer right here in the back corner of the passenger side section of the hatchback. In addition to the speakers in the rear doors. And we've also got a pair of small speakers right here on the C-pillars right behind the back seats. Okay, so with all these speakers working in conjunction with one another, I see no reason to upgrade the speakers that come on this FL5. You can upgrade the subwoofer like I did for a little bit more low-end frequencies, but as far as all the main speakers, the highs and the mids, there's no reason to do so. Let me go and show you what settings I've got for optimal performance. Okay, there's my bass, treble, and mid-range settings right there. And as far as audio zones go, I have the fader 1 notch towards the rear, which will enable you to hear a little bit more of the bass. As far as the Bose center point is concerned, I've got that turned on to the on position. And the Bose dynamic speed compensation, I've got that right there 1 notch above the off position. Alright, so I can't give you a demonstration of the radio itself because I'll get a copyright infringement, but you'll just have to witness this for yourself next time you drive or ride in an FL5 Type-R. Is the amazing Bose factory stereo system. So I have nothing but positive things to say about this system right here. And some more exterior details. I just love how Honda made this thing a lot wider by stretching the fenders out and not putting like clad-on fenders like the Integra Type S. And same thing up front with the fenders. And they made these fenders a lot wider out of sheet metal as opposed to basically plastic cladding like the Integra Type S has. Not a fan of that look right there. Okay, and we got the wheels themselves, 19 by 9.5 plus 60mm, which the offset's horrible, but I went in and resolved that situation with some Bonos forged wheel spacers. And I really like the fact that Honda finished these things in a satin black or a matte black as opposed to a gloss black. So 2 things right there. Number 1, gives it a nice unique look to it as opposed to gloss black. And number 2, it hides a lot of the brake dust, because these Brembos throw out a lot of brake dust, by the way. Okay, but the overall design of the FL5 Type-R, I really like this thing. I bought this thing sight unseen, by the way. I've only seen these things drive past me, and when I got to the dealership up in Pennsylvania, I was literally blown away of how nice this thing looked. So, okay guys, so how to do with the color selection of Boost Blue Pearl? Or have you chosen red or have you gotten the Sonic Gray Pearl? Those are my three main color choices. Okay, move along the inside. I love the door panels. I like the Alcantara surfacing right here. And the FL5 actually has a red LED bar right here that lights up at night, and it is dimmable with the switch on the dashboard. And then you got the dashboard right here. This is a whole new design for this generation Civic. They cleaned this thing up significantly. I believe the previous 10th gen Civic had a lot of triangular dashboard design. I didn't really like that much. But this one being straight across, very reminiscent of BMW, so I really like the clean dashboard design here. And we cannot forget about the red seats. So the red seats, these things are phenomenal. They look great and they're very comfortable. I've taken multiple hour road trips and I have not been sore, by the way. So these things are very supportive and they're very comfortable, by the way. So if you guys are on the fence of whether the seats are gonna be comfortable for you or not, you know, don't have any doubts. But unless you guys are weighing like 275 pounds or above, then you might have to question these seats right here because the bolsters are pretty tall. Okay, another thing I love about this car, this is a manual transmission only. So you can only get this car in a 6-speed manual, which is how it should be. The factory shifter, I mean, this thing is phenomenal as it is. I'm sure you can upgrade this thing. I think Acuity makes one that just came out. Hybrid Racing might make one. So I'm gonna go ahead and monitor any Black Friday sales coming up this year to see if there's any sales in the Acuity shifter, because I'm actually curious about that model. But this shifter, how it is out of the box, it's a phenomenal shifter. I know there could be some improvements, you know, knocking this thing down a little bit, you know, shortening up the throws, but I don't know, we'll see what the future has in store for the shifter on this car. All right, enough talk about the modifications and the likes and dislikes on the FL5. Let's go ahead and take a ride, and I'll tell you guys if this is a daily drivable car for you guys or not. Let's go ahead, hit the road. Buckle up, let's go ahead, take a ride in the FL5 Type-R. Alright guys, what everyone wants to know, how does the FL5 actually drive? So there's going to be no sugarcoating here. So the way that this car drives is nothing short of amazing. A lot of the reviewers actually compare the FL5 Type-R to a budget Porsche GT3. I wouldn't doubt it, but I have no truth there because I've never driven a Porsche GT3 or a 911 for that matter, but I've always wanted one. But anyhow, the handling of this car is just nothing short of amazing. I've taken some crazy, you know, turns at some speeds that I was actually questioning. But now the tires that Honda included on this car are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which are phenomenal summer performance tires. So they don't do pretty well, I guess, temperatures from like, I guess, 30 degrees on below. So you just gotta be cognizant of the temperatures when you're going to be driving, you know, the car with those stock Michelin tires. Anyhow, the shifting of this car it's amazing. I mean, like I mentioned before, you know, Honda gave some great transmission gearing on this, and the shifter itself is, you know, very sporty with shorter throws. It's a little bit lower to the console as opposed to most manual transmissions. So I don't know if there's going to be a reason to upgrade the shifter assembly itself, but the option is there with the aftermarket support. And I think there is a specific braking system that Honda's implemented on the rear brakes. So that's the reason why that the rear brakes wear out faster than the front brakes do. So I guess when you're on the back roads doing the curves, I guess the brakes start doing their thing, you know, applying some brake pressure that side, applying some brake pressure that side, just to help kind of, I guess, swerve and steer the car in the direction you want to go with the steering wheel itself. So it's a pretty high-tech system, and for those of you wondering why your rear brakes are wearing out, that's the reason why. I think there's a setting on here we can turn that thing off. Well, I just got screwed over. Some Dodge Charger base model decided to go hokey pokey slow over these railroad tracks, and now the railroad tracks are closing on me. Anyways, I guess it'd be a good time to talk about the daily drivability of this car if you wish to do so. I think it is totally fine to daily drive this car if you want to go and take that route. Personally, this car is a lot more special to me than actually using this thing as a daily driver. So this is my weekend / road trip car that I purchased, and this is my midlife crisis 45th birthday present. So I don't use this as a daily driver, but if you wanted to, you very well could, because I mean, this thing is very functional, you know, with the comfort level it's got, the versatility of the hatchback system, and also, you know, the fuel economy. So right now my fuel economy, I'm averaging 24 miles per gallon. That's mostly city right now. I haven't been on the highway for some road trips in some time, but I think on the highway you can probably squeeze out maybe 32, if you're lucky, 34 miles a gallon. So for those of you wanting to know if this car is daily drivable, most definitely I believe it is. You know, with the amount of cargo space that you got, being it's 4 seats, and it's relatively fuel efficient. Okay, now there is one drawback for owning an FL5 Type-R that I forgot to mention. So I guess it might be a bad thing, but you're always going to be wanting to drive this car. So I've got multiple cars in the household right now, and I'm always wanting to drive this car for whatever reason. So it is pretty addictive, you know, with how fun it is and versatile it is, and the amount of speed and the handling it's got. So that's the only drawback that I can think of about owning the FL5 Type-R, is you're always going to be wanting to drive this car, no matter what other cars you got in the household. Okay, so another question I've had on the FL5 Type-R is, why didn't you buy an Integra Type S? I always get that question a lot, so I'm going to go explain my rationale of why I didn't buy an Integra Type S. Okay, so number one, the Integra Type S, it is more expensive. So I believe it's like $7,000 more than the FL5 Type-R, which I think is ridiculous. I think you get maybe 5 more horsepower. The Integra Type S is also, I believe, 6 inches longer than the FL5 Type-R. And I'm not too impressed with the exterior styling of the new Integra. I know it might sound a little bit crazy. I'm a big Acura Integra fan and the RSX. But this new Integra, I'm just not really happy with the release that they did on the Acura Integra. So in my opinion, the new Acura Integra, it's too reminiscent of the TLX. So if you had the TLX front clip and the Integra front clip, and you put that car about 100 yards out, you'd probably have a hard time telling the difference between the Acura Integra and the TLX. So that's just my opinion. Back in the day, when they had the Acura Integra and the Acura RSX, those models were always quite different from the rest of the lineup, whether it was the Acura Legend or the Acura 3.2 TL Type S. It was always totally different from the existing lineup. So I was kind of upset when Acura released that new Acura Integra. I'm not a fan of that car for whatever reason, so I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings of if you guys went with the Integra Type S, but that's just my personal opinion. So I'm very happy with the Honda Civic Type-R. So many people might say that I'm too old for this Civic Type-R, but you know, it really doesn't matter. I like this car, it suits me well. You know, I love the design over the Integra, and it's actually cheaper. And on top of that, I think the colors are a lot better than what's on the Integra Type S. So you got a nice blue color, you got rally red, you know, you got sonic gray pearl. But then again, with the Integra Type S, I guess they're more mature colors. So the colors are a lot more darker. Now, unless you went with Tiger Eye Pearl, that's a very sweet Integra Type S color. It's like a metallic gold, but that's the only color I really liked on the Integra Type S. The other ones are just like meh, doesn't really do much for me. So that's basically the main reasons why I did not go with the Integra Type S. Oh, and on top of that, I don't really like the exterior styling of how they extended out the wheelbase of the Integra Type S. They basically took plastic cladding and just put it over the fenders and the rear quarters and the doors in order to give it that extra few inches that they needed. So not too impressed with that. I like how they took the metal of the rear quarter panels and actually the fenders of the Civic Type-R, and they actually stretched it out and made it a more natural stretch out as opposed to putting plastic cladding on there. But that's just my personal opinion now. Like I said before, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings if you guys went with the Integra Type S, but you know, I'm very happy and content with the Civic Type-R. So I have no regrets whatsoever buying this car. That leads me to my next point. Would I buy this car again? Absolutely. Would I get the same color? Probably. I like Boost Blue Pearl. Rally Red's also nice, but I don't think I would buy Championship White or Crystal Black Pearl. That's just me. I like something that's colorful. Sonic Gray Pearl is okay, but you know, Boost Blue Pearl and Rally Red, I think that's just where the colors are at. So if you guys are on the fence about buying an FL5 Type-R or maybe an FK8 Type-R, I say go ahead and do it. I mean, you're not going to have any regrets. You know, the resale is really high for these cars, so it's not going to lose too much value. They're extremely fun and they're very versatile. So I just don't think you'll have any regrets whatsoever if you were to purchase a car. But just make sure, if you're buying a used one, to thoroughly inspect it and make sure it's not a wrecked rebuild, because there's a lot of accident rebuilds out there that are for sale. So just a little word of caution on that. All right, guys, well, this wraps up the 1-year review of living with the FL5 Type-R. And if you got any specific questions, please feel free to comment below, and I'll do my best to answer all questions. And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day. Problem? No, no problems. Yeah, appreciate it.